Hey, what's up? This is MOG, and so I've been thinking about this topic, the persuasion rule. Okay, so in the consortium there was and I didn't have the time to watch them all, and I'm really sorry. And so at the same time I said, you know what? I'm not gonna watch any of them, and I'm just gonna tackle the persuasion rule topic from my own perspective, not engaging, especially the different aspect that the conversation, in the consortium was engaging. So I'm just tackling it because persuasion roles is not one of my pet peeves, because I don't care much about that, but it is a complicated issue. Because first I opened up some books before coming in, just to see how persuasion is described in different games. In Fate Core, it's called Deceive, and it covers lying, disguise, manipulation, and all that under one skill. In Burning Wheel, you have many different versions of persuading. You can do that with ugly truth. Somehow you can do that with of course persuasion is the core one, and it says that it's not mind control. So in the book it says persuasion is not mind control. This is for Burning Wheel, and you have many different kind of things. You can do a duel of wits as well if you want to go deeper and more precise, but let's not go there. Let's just keep to the skill. I opened up Traveler. In Traveler's Mongoose edition, it's called Persuade, and it covers stuff like fooling a guard, lying, deceiving, and persuading. But and I look in Boot Hill, classic game from TSR. And in Boot Hill, they say that there's no persuasion. There is public speaking and leadership. And so public speaking is for crowds, and leadership as well. So there's actually no rule to roll the dice for convincing NPCs. So I haven't read the whole book. I just went into the skill section. So if the book has a special subsystem, because I know Boot Hill has all kinds of cool subsystems like that, maybe there is a subsystem for persuading someone, convincing someone, or something like that. But there's no skill. I went for the skill, and so I just looked, and it's one of the reasons why persuasion roles are so complicated and hard as a topic is because they're not clear. From game to game, most of the time, skills are self-explanatory. So a lot of people, they buy games, they have a big list of skills, and there's all these small little paragraphs to refer to if you need to. But most of the time people don't read them because they are self-explanatory. You're not gonna go and read Persuade 50 different times in 50 different games, right? Except when you have this situation in play where people don't agree, so let's go and read it. And it makes sense, right? So what the problem is that having all these little nuances and covering such a big area, from fooling a guard to convince you, to disguising myself, to manipulation, so it's like, what's the limit? So that's where it comes down to with the persuasion role. It's like, how much of it is the player, how much the player is able to change the real world, change the NPC or the fellow player, the PC, as mind. You know, so let's go with something. Let's start first with the PC. So let's say you want to persuade your fellow player at the table. You know, so some people I remember we had this conversation years ago, and some people were saying we don't do persuasion roles with one another. We convince each other in character. Good idea, fair enough. It's super interesting because it's what it creates. It's like role play, creates a real real persuasion in character. Love it. Now, let's say for example you play with your friends and you play with in this tight, neat group, and you are for example I'm sorry, there's kids everywhere. Now they see me filming myself, so they're gonna come down in my back mocking me probably. And so I don't know if they will. I would if I was there, if I were them. Oh, yeah, they're coming. Yeah, so the thing is that they're coming and they're gonna fuck my video up. So the idea is that so let's say you play in a group, you know, and then you in your social contract you mention that you don't wanna do persuasion role between player characters. And so what you end up with is a situation one day where the two players around the table, they don't want to give it up. So no matter how much no matter how convincing you are, nobody's giving it up. So you know, we want to move forward. We want to make the story go. So what we do, we let's say we engage the role. So we say, let's do it with a persuasion role. No problem. So what happens now is, let's say I want to convince you to do X. Okay, so I roll my skill. You know, if I manage to convince you, we move along, and me as a fellow gamer, and as a fellow player, I forced myself, you know, onto your character, you know, and now the situation is that your character is not doing what you wanted it to. Some people are really picky about that, and they won't allow it, and they won't like that, and it's normal. And so but you solve the problem. So what you do, you bite the bullet, and then you play your character in the way that your fellow player want him to do. Now, let's say for example the fellow player fail the role. We use that mechanic to make the game move forward. Fail the role, fail to convince, we stay at the same spot that we were. You know what I'm saying? So we stay at this place where two PCs don't want to go the same direction. For example, in a quest or whatever. You know, it's kind of annoying. Then, what's next? Let's say you try to persuade like an NPC. So now the GM, so when you have NPC most of the time, you know, you have a game master who created them, and it's part of a world. So now you so the NPC has belief, they have belief, they have motivations, they have stuff that they want to do, so usually when unless they're just like templates or something, but most GM, they give them beliefs and stuff, and so they have a motivation, they have an intention, and usually the idea behind these kinds of NPCs, that you end up having a situation as a player when you want to convince, is that they have a plan, they have something going on, and it's part of the story, because in these kinds of games, like, you have some kind of a plot going on. So what's happening is that when the players succeed persuasion roll on these kind of NPCs, in this kind of situation, what happens is that you change the story. So you change his mind, depending on the level of persuasion and depending on what you want to persuade him of, but that's the structure. So you change his mind. So now the PC is actively changing the possible course of events and possible course of action of the world. Some people don't like that. Some people have a really problem with that. So what do you do? Now let's say it's simple when you fail with an NPC. You fail the roll, and so you end up not convincing the guy. So the guy is just keeping his agenda. But when you succeed, how do you reward that character, that player? How do you reward that character as a GM, without fiating the whole thing, because you can fiat. For example, you make the NPC act like he was persuaded, and down the line, later on, the same events occur, but skinned in a way that it doesn't look like it's from that NPC or something like that. So that if you do that, if that is what's happening, you negate that role, you negate that resolution that was won by the player, and that is not. I mean, in game theory, it's not playing the game. It's bad form. So unless you allow for lying and stuff like that, so it's not which is might not be the case. So how do you deal with that? So now let's say you play a style game where everything is to be created together, like GM-less games or games that have more of that kind of approach. Persuading becomes this weird activity of, okay, so since there's no motivation a priori, since there's no plot a priori to be discovered and everything, so why would it be relevant to try to persuade you of something? So it would be kind of like I want to force my agenda on the game, so what I as a player, so now it can become this weird thing that maybe that's the thing that Ivan and Mike see as like competition, where so if you do a persuasion roll, I persuade you, now I take control of the thing, and so it ends up having this weird situation where, yeah, but I didn't want my character to think that, so I'm and there's also and at the core of the persuasion role problem or conundrum is the fact that you have the persuasion or the persuading of the player and the persuading of the character, which is not the same, and when they are not aligned, it can be tough for some people, it can be super counterintuitive and everything. So what can you say about that? Personally, me, if I don't personally, I don't see, I don't care much. I can change my mind, I can easily, and I will adapt to the dice. That's me. Some people, I mean, it can ruin their own experience. It can ruin the whole thing because they don't want their character to be mind altered, or it's kind. In the definition of persuasion in Burning Wheel, it says persuasion is not mind control. So here's an example for the sake of how you can do a persuasion thing that is not becoming a mind control leverage. Let's say for example you want to persuade a guard to let you in. That's kind of easy. These kind of persuasion roles are easy. Let's say you want to persuade a villain, to stop hurting the people in the village. So you're utilizing persuasion as a means to an end. So it's one role. And so we're in front of this big bad guy. Let's say he's the leader of this crew of thieves and criminals, and they are hurting the poor people of this village. And so you come in, go to his face, and say, "You know what, fella? Here's a couple good reasons why you should stop doing that." And then you roll the dice, and then by rolling the dice, what happens is that you change his mind. Here's how you can manage to not do mind control but still persuading him. So you role play it out, say, "Hey fella, you should stop hurting people because it's bad. It creates, people might want a revenge afterward, and so they're gonna keep going after you like from generation to generation, until you're dead. And maybe you should work on yourself instead of hurting others, and then become a better person. And then you realize that these people can be your allies and making more money at the end." Boom. I roll my dice, and then I win. And so the chief is like, so my intention was for him to stop hurting the villagers. And I don't want, and as a group of people, we don't want persuasion to become a mind control thing. So it goes like, "You know what? You're right. It's really bad. I should really stop doing it. But let's say you're right. How, let's say you're right. Let's say I should stop hurting people. Now, how, how can you make sure that I can still get what I need without hurting? And so for now, what happens is that you have an exchange, for example. So it's like, he's gonna stop hurting these people, but he asks you in return to provide with some more opportunities. Now the story keeps going. It doesn't create the feel of, it's kind of like a yes but, it's like a fail forward, but now it's a succeed forward kind of thing. So it's like you changed his mind. He's not, you persuade him to stop hurting these people there at this moment. Not for the rest of his life, not forever. But now you have his attention for this moment. He's gonna stop. He's gonna call this man, what do you propose? And then it's an opportunity to role play out, keep going to something else, and lead the story moving forward. So this persuasion role, should not just be like pass or fail, boom, key pass, VIP, I go, and also not, in the way you narrate things, like, this is something that we don't talk a lot much when we do these videos. Sometimes it's like there's a lot to be said about the way you implement the narration and the resolution of the conflict at hand. You know, when you do the persuasion role. I think persuasion roles should be more conflict based than task based. You know, when you want to convince a guard to let you in, it's kind of task. It's kind of easy. You know, there's no big mind control going on there. But when you want to convince a villain that is at the core of this game to stop doing that, you know, it's not the same. It's more of a conflict base. So how can you make it satisfying over one role? So maybe you know, most people would have go there and fight and create this big boss fight and with the henchmen and stuff, and then it would have become satisfying as a game, as a resolution, as a game experience and all that. But if you're a clever player and you come in and you just roll a persuasion, it's kind of like, and that's the reason why some people, you know, have issue with this kind of persuasion rolls and stuff, where you mind controlling people, so and changing the whole course of the game. So obviously, I think it will demand improvisation. So again, for some people have problem with that. All right, and some GM would go just, you know, basically just negating the opportunity. Would say, no, you cannot persuade that guy. You know, and for some people, like myself personally, I would never appreciate, you know, a GM, you know, telling me that I cannot utilize my character in a certain way over a certain matter. It's like, this is, sometimes it's like, it's really complicated, really hard. I'm a big proponent of the yes approach, right? But that's me. So for some people, so that's for all these reasons. It's 20 minutes of all the many layers of, from, you know, first, like the different games, different skill, different name for the skill. Sometimes the skill is not there. Sometimes the skill cover a whole array of things. And then well, you have a difference between PC and NPC relationship with this role, and then the whole idea of player, you know, actively modifying the world ecology by mind manipulating or mind controlling NPCs and stuff. So for all these reasons, and then the difference between a success and a failure, because sometimes, you know, succeeding these and failing these can resolve in a really counterintuitive experience, like I've mentioned earlier. So it's like all these things, yeah, and persuasion rolls, just don't know what to do about it. Personally, over the years, I just you know, grew a tough skin about them, and just I improv them out, you know, depending on the dice, the result of the dice, and I utilize them parsimoniously, like really rarely, like just when it's kind of like important and in a specific situation. Sometimes when it's easy, it comes naturally, you know, asking the guard to let you in. But sometimes it becomes more demanding, like with the bandit, the chief bandit I've mentioned. So anyway, I hope I managed to express myself well about these issues. I think it's just a matter of like acknowledging them. So what do you do? How do you utilize your persuasion roles? Do you allow them with PCs and NPCs, and how do you implement them? Are they a problem? Let me know. All right, talk to you soon.